What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I'm here to do my preview video for the Miami Dolphins versus New York Giants. They are coming to town. They are coming to Hard Rock Stadium for what I would expect to be a victory. So we'll get to score predictions obviously at the end, but I definitely think this should be a win for the Dolphins. I expect them, and we'll get to, keys to victory and stuff. I expect them to continue to play the style of defense that they've been playing. And I think that the offense can do, at least enough. Although when it gets to my score prediction, you'll see I think that they're actually going to win relatively comfortable, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's go ahead and jump into this. As usual, we're going to start with the Dolphins injury report. Unfortunately, our injury report is still a bit lengthy, and obviously it doesn't include the guys that are on injured reserve. But let's go ahead and take a look. So we have, Trill Williams is doubtful with his hamstring, so he won't be available. We also have Phillip Lindsay, who is listed as doubtful, which is not good. Obviously our run game had, seen its best performance this past week with Phillip Lindsay in the game. So having him not there is obviously not something we want to see. He came in, it was, limited too, of course. He didn't get a ton of snaps, but, if it wasn't for him, it wasn't the touchdown, by the way, which I had said before, but it was the big play, the 50-something yard play to Waddle. That never would have occurred if it wasn't for Phillip Lindsay's block on Hassan Reddick that allowed him to be able to step up in the pocket and deliver that throw. So, doubtful means he's probably not going to be there. And then Adam Shaheen as well. And so, Trill Williams, not really a big deal, but Phillip Lindsay and Adam Shaheen being doubtful, that is actually kind of a big deal. Then you actually, Jalen Phillips, one of our top, unfortunately, one of the concerning things for the Dolphins right now, especially with the way that their defense has been playing, is some of their top performers, like Jalen Phillips, now has a hip injury. He's been limited in practice all week, and he's questionable. Brandon Jones obviously missed this past game with his ankle/elbow. He's been limited. He's questionable. We know that Javon Holland is dealing with an ankle. He's been full participant, so that's good to go. He should be available for sure, but he's kind of banged up. And then additional to that, you have Jesse Davis with a vet rest day, so all right, whatever. Howard with a vet rest day, cool. Give those guys some rest. I mean, Howard, is obviously a key contributor to this Dolphins team, whereas Jesse Davis is a key failure on this Dolphins team. So a little bit different context between those players. But then you have Robert Hunt, who now has a back injury, who was limited, then full. He should be good to go, but that's something to keep an eye on. Byron Jones with a rest day, so that's good. Give him some rest. And then you have Waddle now with an injury, a glute injury. He was full apparently, and then good to go. Let's see, and then Preston Williams with a knee, whatever. I mean, he's been useless as well. But unfortunately, again, seeing guys like Waddle and Holland and Phillips, Brandon Jones, and these guys are getting banged up. So I just hope that they are able to keep themselves healthy throughout the remainder of the season, because if we do want to, make a push, let alone, any conversation about making noise when we get into the playoffs, which, look, real quick, I'll just say this, that if we somehow manage to pull together the miracle of going 10-7 and making it to the playoffs with everything that would have to fall in the Dolphins' favor for that to happen, I can't see us getting past the first round. I would love to be surprised and shocked by that, but and the reason for that is because even though our defense has been playing really well as of late, I'm not sure the offense is ready to take the kind of step. They're still a super young team that doesn't know anything about playing in the playoffs. and they're still very undisciplined in a lot of ways. They still get a lot of penalties, and our defense, these defensive players are getting kind of banged up. So it is all something to keep an eye on. Obviously, for me, as you know, injuries have been a concern all season. So, nothing new there, but, something to keep an eye on and how it goes. Either way, though, I'm pretty sure that we should be good to go. Now, when we look at the Giants, they have Trent Harris out. They have Adoree Jackson has been ruled out, so that's great. Hopefully all these guys get healthy with whatever their injuries are. But it's good for this game. Then you have Caden Smith, who's listed as out. Obviously, we know Daniel Jones now has been officially listed out. We are going to be playing against Mike Glennon. Then you have Kadarius Toney, who's doubtful. Sterling Shepard, who's doubtful. And then you have Kyle Rudolph, John Ross, and Cullen Gillespie. I guess. I'm sorry if I screw that name up, my dude. But anyway, all questionable. So they do have significant injuries and stuff like that too. Honestly, I know people hate when I talk about stuff like this, but the Dolphins are actually getting a little bit lucky down this back end of the stretch too when it comes to injuries for the other teams. So that's another reason why hopefully the Dolphins can stay healthy, so that way they can take advantage of that, because and it really started a couple weeks ago against the Jets. They're going into that game, they were beat up and missing a bunch of guys, but then they lose Michael Carter in the game, who was performing well against us. Then you have the Carolina Panthers, who had a couple injuries, but they lose Christian McCaffrey for the season, for the remainder of the season during that game. And now we're about to play the Giants. The Jets obviously come up after the bye, who still have a bunch of injuries. We'll see if any of their guys come back. The Saints and the Tennessee Titans are both really banged up, missing a bunch of guys. So, the Dolphins are gonna, it seems now, with the Saints and the Titans, there are possibilities that, guys like Alvin Kamara and Ramczyk, on their offensive line for the Saints, they could have some of those guys back. A.J. Brown and Antonio or Julio Jones, guys like that could be back for, I don't think Henry's going to be back for the Titans, but some of those playmakers could be back. They're missing guys on the offensive line too. Taylor Lewan's battled injuries. So, something to keep an eye on going down the stretch, but definitely plays into the Dolphins' favor. I'll put it like that if people don't want me saying, oh, they're getting lucky because of it. I mean, it is lucky. Nobody can control injuries, right? And so if you happen to play a team that's banged up, it's lucky. If you don't get to get them at full strength, it's lucky, right? So, but now the part that the responsibility that the team has is then to take advantage of that. So hopefully the Dolphins can remain healthy on their end and take advantage of these very banged up teams, and in this case, a team that's not particularly great. Anyway, let's go ahead now and switch over to the preview, my little preview template. So as you can see, the Dolphins are 5-7, Giants are 4-7. They've played one less game. We've played 12, they've played 11. So keep that in mind when we go through all this. But technically we do have the better record, obviously by about a half game because of that. And now let's take a look at league standings. So as you will be able to see, when it comes to most of these head-to-head categories, we actually do have a pretty big advantage in a lot of ways. So when it comes to total yards, we're at 3,730, which is currently 20th. They're 3,492, which is 26th. So we obviously win that category. We do lose the yards per game category by just a little bit, by one spot. They're one spot ahead of us. We're 25th, they're 24th. We're at 310.8 per game, they're at 317.5. When it comes to total passing, we're actually 12th with 2,984. They're 21st with 2,659. That's a win for us. Then we get to passing yards per game. We're at 248.7, which is 16th. They're at 241.7, which is 18th. There's a win for us. Rushing yards, they do beat us in this category by just a little bit. We have 962 total, which is 28th. They have 999, which is 26th. When it comes to per game average, they do beat us here as well. We're currently at 80.2 per game, which is 31st in the league. They're 26th, which is 90.8. When it comes to total points, we're at 234 in the season, which is 21st or 18th after ties. They are only at 202, which is 26th or 23rd after ties. So there's a win for us. And like I said, I mean, most of these categories, there's really no reason why the Dolphins should lose to the Giants. Aside from, again, you know, and I said this either last week or the week before, aside I think it was the week before against the Jets, because aside from the cliche things, yeah, it was against the Jets, because I even had the division rival thing in there and the fact that we're playing on the road. But, you know, aside from the any given Sunday or whatever, now, don't get me wrong, like, their defense still has some players on it, and I don't think it's going to be just necessarily a walk in the park. But there really is no reason why the Dolphins should lose. They should absolutely get the win in this game. But anyway, points per game, the Dolphins are at 19.5, which is 24th or 20th after ties. And the Giants are at 18.4, which is 26th or 22nd after ties. When it comes down to third down offense, we're actually pretty damn good at 10th in the league at 42.1%. They're not very good at 26th with 36.2%. Defensively, when it comes to the defense, we are giving up 367.4 yards per game, which is currently 24th, but they are worse than us. They are giving up 371.5, which is 27th. They do beat us in passing yards, though. We're currently giving up 281.5, which is 29th. They're 16th in the league at 256. We're giving up 104.9 rushing yards per game, which is good for 10th. We win this category by a good margin. They're giving up 127.7, which is 26th. Now, we'll see how that goes. I mean, obviously, our run game on offense kind of fucking sucks. And if Phillip Lindsay's not going to play, well, then it's probably not going to be very good again. But that is an area where we should be able to take advantage. And again, I'll get to the keys to victory in just a minute. But let's finish on with this. So points per game, we're giving up 23.3, which is currently 19th or 16th after ties. They're giving up 23 even, which is 16th or 14th after ties. When it comes to takeaways, we have 19. Both of us actually have 19th on the season. We're 8th, they're 9th, but we're both tied for 5th. When it comes to interceptions, we have 10, which is 15th or 8th after ties. They have 13. This is actually an area where they've been pretty good, is actually getting turnovers. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. They do have 13, which is 8th or 5th after ties. We have 9 fumbles, which is 4th, 3rd after ties. They have 6, which is 11th or 6th after ties. When it comes to sacks, we're certainly better than they are. Especially after getting 5 this past week. And we're pretty good on the season as of right now with 28, which is 12th or 6th after ties. They have 21, which is good for 26th or 11th after ties. When it comes to passes defense, both teams are good at this. Obviously, we're first in the league with 69, but they do come in at 3rd with 60. So again, an area to keep an eye on. That is something that when it comes to turnovers and passes defense and third down defense, that's something that they are actually pretty good at. And they're actually pretty good in the passing game when it comes to yardage, which is our strength. So again, we'll get to keys to victory in a minute, but those are going to be areas to keep an eye on, and if the Dolphins are able to perform well. Now, I would think so, especially over the past few weeks with the way Tua has elevated this offense, but again, we'll get to that in a minute. So anyway, third down defense, we're still currently 29th in the league at 44.3%. They're 11th at 38.7%. All right, and now let's just take a quick look, as I like to do, about how each team did in their previous game. So they played the Eagles. This is how the Giants performed against the Eagles. This is how we performed against the Panthers. So if the box score ended up looking like this at the end of the game, I don't think it'll be quite like this. I do think the Dolphins will win. We'll get to that in a minute. But if it did turn out like this, obviously we would love to see it, because that would be a not just a win by the Dolphins, but a decisive win. Obviously, if we won by a margin of 33-13, we would love to see it. We did beat them out in total yards, our 315 to their 264. We beat them out in passing, our 204 to their 194. We beat them in rushing, 111 to their 70. They beat us by a little bit in yards per play, their 4.6 to our 4.4. They did win in the fumbles category and in turnovers overall, because they had no fumbles, no interceptions. We had the one fumble. We beat them in third down conversion rate, our 42% to their 25. Both teams had the ball for the majority of the game. We obviously had it a little bit longer, as you see, our 37-34 to their 32-02. Now, in reality, no, you're not, unless you go to overtime, you're not going to have two teams with over 30 minutes of possession time, obviously. So we want to try and be on the over on that, right? We want to have the ball for longer, ideally. And then they did win the penalties battle, though. They only had 2. We have 5, obviously, penalties. And, undisciplined football continued to be an issue for this team. All right, now, Mike Glennon did not play very much, or has not yet played very much. So just keep that in mind here. He hasn't really done anything. But so he's 64%. 196 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, and a 68.1 passer rating. Again, he's very limited action, but Mike Glennon is not really scary. He's not really going to pose much of a threat, I wouldn't think. You never know. And any given Sunday, obviously, and whatever, but I'm not particularly worried about it, especially if they do play their brand of defensive football. Tua, on the other hand, is currently second in the NFL with 70.5% completion percentage, 1,701 yards, 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a 94.7 passer rating, which is also Patrick Mahomes' passer rating. By the way, in case you didn't know that and see all of these fancy stats that Tua's putting up showing that he is a quarterback, a franchise quarterback that should be built around. I hope the Dolphins aren't stupid in the offseason, but we'll get there when we get there. So he's putting up good numbers. And now keys to victory. It's actually going to be really simple this week. Just run the ball. Start by running the ball, because that is an area in which you can exploit. Now, Philip Lindsay being doubtful, is a bit concerning for our ability to run the football, but they definitely need to commit to it. They need to give it a go. They have still Duke Johnson and Gaskin and whatever. So, run the football. That'll, obviously open up the passing game a bit more. It'll obviously help to negate any pass rush, etc., etc. It'll wear the defense out, and it'll make you more efficient and more balanced throughout the game, and that's where it should start. So start by running, and that is where they are weak on defense. Their strong suit is their passing defense. So run the ball to start with, and then that will then allow Tua just to continue to be himself and allow his efficiency to elevate the offense, which is number 2 here on my list, because that has obviously been, it's at this point, there is literally no argument that Tua does not elevate this offense. I disagree, though, from a certain perspective, you could say that he's elevating the offensive line, although I don't really like that framing, because it kind of glosses over the fact that they're still complete shit, and he's actually masking and overcoming the offensive line. That's usually how I like to frame it, because they're still making mistakes. They're still having shit penalties. They're still allowing tons of pressure. It's just that some of those numbers are falling off, and they're looking like they're doing better because of Tua's quick release and his ability to manipulate the pocket and so on and so forth. So it's not like, yes, the hard line stats have said that in the past few weeks their pressure numbers have gone down, but when you actually watch the film, it's not that they're blocking any better. It's that Tua's getting the ball out super fast and has elite pocket presence. So he is the one that 100% is taking this offense to another level, despite the fact that he has no weapons, no run game, and no offensive line. So, anybody that argues that has absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Anyway, let's finish up here, though. And again, because it still is an issue, no costly mistakes, penalties, or turnovers. We did have the fumble in this past game. There were obviously a number of penalties and stuff like that. Obviously, it didn't matter. We were able to overcome, and we won by a large margin. But, we got to clean that stuff up. Those things have to go away, and it's going to remain on the list until they do it. Now, defensively, all three things I'm just going to leave as stay aggressive, stay aggressive, stay aggressive. Look, you just got to play. And look, I'm just going to say this because... and I've talked about it before. I actually think that Brian Flores making the decision to not play the brand of football on the defensive side in the first half of the season was part of his plan to sabotage Tua, because there's no reason why he shouldn't. I mean, it proved to be super effective last year. It helped you to get to 10 wins. And I actually don't even want to hear anything about, Javon Holland and Jalen Phillips being a rookie or whatever. Like, I don't want to hear, I even don't want to hear the fact that, Byron Jones and Xavier Howard were battling injuries, and those are reasons why you couldn't run that style of defense, because that style of defense actually would help all of those players. If they weren't using Jalen Phillips out of position and dropping him into coverage and taking him off the field and just allowed him to pin his ears back like they've been doing over, and with the aggressive packages, the blitzes, the disguised coverages, it would have helped him to perform better earlier on in the season. Same thing for Javon Holland, and it would have helped the entire secondary, because you would have been it would have taken the heat off of the secondary, because you would have been applying heat to the opposing quarterback and the offensive line, et cetera, et cetera. And Jalen Phillips, his issue hasn't been the reason why, he wasn't coming on in the early half of the season like he is now isn't because of his ability. In fact, when he was on the field and when they were using him properly, he actually was being productive and getting pressures. He just wasn't finishing because they weren't playing and using him to his skill set, right? And when he does win, it's in large part because of his athleticism, his strength, his ability, his quickness, right? So it's... if they look, anyway, he should have been doing it before, and I don't want to hear those excuses. It's, I personally believe that it's another one of those ways in which he was just trying to put Tua at a disadvantage. And yes, I 100% believe that he was willing to sacrifice his defense to some degree, because it wasn't even a complete sacrifice. The defense definitely kept us in a lot of those games. They definitely won us the first game of the season. So it was primarily the offense. But, I do think that was part of Brian Flores' plan to convince Stephen Ross that Tua's not the guy, and that, whatever, whether it be because of injuries or whether it be because the offense isn't performing up to level, whatever, I think it was just part of his plan. I'm going to go ahead and sacrifice a little bit of my defensive performance to put the team in position to fail, so that way ultimately the one guy who's going to get all the blame, i.e., or at least the vast majority of the blame, is Tua, when especially he knew that, well, all I got to do is start calling the plays differently, and my defense is going to look a lot better. And, even though the offense is still going to struggle, because I completely set them up for failure by having no offensive line, no run game, all these coordinators, unreliable wide receivers, etc. All right, I don't want to get off on a tangent. That's for another day. I just think it's another way in which he has put Tua specifically in position to fail, so that way he can convince the owner that in the offseason the appropriate thing to do is not fire him, but move on from the quarterback and go get Deshaun Watson. Anyway, defensively, stay aggressive, which I don't have any doubt that they will at this point, because it seems pretty clear to me that, Brian Flores is trying to paint the narrative that it's not him. He's not the issue. Okay, see, he hasn't lost the locker room. And see, look, his defense is playing better. It's a bit of a coincidence that it just happened to happen around right after the trade deadline and they were not able to trade for Deshaun Watson all of a sudden now. And after you get this one and see, look, I might start slow, but I can pick it up. Like, he is painting the picture that it's not him. And, and then also you throw in Elijah Campbell when he told the press that, hey, Brian Flores said that we're going to play an entirely different brand of football. The only thing he changed was the defensive side and the play calling there. But why did Brian Flores get upset that one of his players said that? Because he didn't want people to know, this is how I read it, he didn't want people to know that he was intentionally being conservative and lacking in the play calling and the scheming on defense in the first half of the season, because what his true intentions is to sabotage the season because he know the quarterback is going to get the blame, especially with the way that Herbert is playing, Deshaun Watson being out there, right? And obviously, now that the fucking defense is playing well, it's not the defense that's losing us games, right? So he's just painting this picture, bro. I firmly believe that. I absolutely do. And, people can hate me for it if they want, but I think it's pretty obvious, especially then when you take into the consideration the fact that he never wanted Tua, he doesn't like him, the contentious relationship with Tua's parents, for his dad in particular, all these different things, bro. And it seems pretty clear and obvious to me that Brian Flores has been, is now, and will continue to do everything in the way he jerked him in and out of the lineup, inserting him when he wasn't ready, pulling him when there was no reason to, when he should have just continued to let him get his lumps and figure it out, etc., etc. Putting him on IR for the ribs when Tua wanted to come back before that, and there are, there's been talk and reports and stuff that he could have, right? He never should have been held out for the finger injury, etc., etc. There's just an abundance of information to show that Brian Flores is trying to sabotage the kid, and whatever. Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't actually mean to put any of that into this video. It just kind of came. I actually was probably gonna make another video where I just rant about how Brian Flores is trying to sabotage him, but I suppose this will suffice. I didn't mean to input it into the preview video here, but it is what it is. Let me go ahead and get to my prediction now so I can wrap up this preview video. And I am going to say that the Dolphins do look, solid on offense. I think that they will get to the roughly whatever it is, league average in points. I'm going to say a 24. And I think that that the Dolphins defense, I don't have any doubt that Brian Flores will continue at this point, because it gives him the best chance to get wins, to show that it's not him or his defense that's the problem, and to continue saving his job and painting the narrative that it's not him and that he's not the problem, and that the changes that need to be made to fix the offense next season are going to be to go get Deshaun Watson. I don't have any doubt that he's going to continue to play that aggressive style defense, even if some of these guys do happen to be out or are not at full capacity on the defensive side of the ball. So I do think the defense is going to handle business. I'm going to say 24-9 Dolphins. So either way, even though I do still see all of that being a mess, I don't see this organizational leadership infrastructure being right. I still see it being rotten, and I don't think they're the right guys to take us the long haul, et cetera, et cetera. It is what it is, and I still want to see my team win. So let's go out and get that W, and then, we have a bye next week. We'll take it 1 week at a time, and we'll see how things play out as far as the whole playoffs and stuff go. But for now, let's go get this win against the Giants. Before I get out of here, make sure you check out the Rave On Sports App, the new fan-driven sports app for all your sports, basketball, baseball, football, college, whatever you like. And they are looking to enhance your game day experience with live play-by-play coverage, live chats with other fans, and content creators like myself. Look for the links to that in the description box. And with that, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns concerns down in the comments section. And of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at DillonTartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.